You do not exist to make others comfortable at the expense of your own authenticity. The time has come. Stop being nice. Start being strong. Have you ever wondered why, despite always being kind and accommodating, people still take you for granted? You've been told that being nice is the key to success, respect, and happiness. But here's the truth. The more you bend, the more people expect you to break. The Stoics understood this centuries ago. Being nice isn't a virtue. More often, it's a weakness. It's driven by fear of rejection, disapproval, and standing alone. And what does fear create? A life of quiet frustration, where you sacrifice your own needs just to keep the peace. But peace bought through submission isn't peace. It's servitude. If you want respect, stop seeking approval. If you want strength, learn to say no. This isn't about being cruel or indifferent. It's about reclaiming your power, setting boundaries, and refusing to be manipulated by the expectations of others. It's about transforming from someone who is merely liked into someone who is truly respected. Chapter 1. The difference between nice and virtuous. The world rewards politeness, compliance, and avoiding conflict. You're told that if you smile, nod, and agree, people will like you. But the Stoics saw through this. Niceness is often just a mask for fear, the fear of not being liked. And that is weakness. Virtue, on the other hand, is strength. It's built on wisdom, justice, courage, and discipline. It doesn't mean being rude, but it does mean standing firm, speaking the truth, and refusing to betray your principles for the comfort of others. Think about this. Have you ever agreed to do something you didn't want to, just to avoid an awkward conversation? Maybe a friend asked you to help them move even though you were exhausted. Maybe a coworker dumped extra work on you, and you took it on because you didn't want to seem uncooperative. Each time you say yes when you mean no, you chip away at your own boundaries. Nice people seek approval. Virtuous people seek self-respect. And here's the reality. People quickly recognize those who crave approval, and they exploit it. A nice person is seen as someone who can be convinced, manipulated, and swayed. A virtuous person stands firm. They are respected because they do not change their stance to please others. Being overly nice doesn't just make you a target. It slowly eats away at your self-worth. Every time you prioritize someone else's comfort over your convictions, you teach yourself that your needs don't matter. But the Stoics knew this was false. True virtue demands strength, and strength means putting your integrity above the fleeting approval of others. This isn't a call to be harsh, it's a call to be firm. Strength and virtue aren't found in pleasing everyone. They're found in standing unshaken in your beliefs. Every time you silence yourself to avoid conflict, you rob yourself of agency. Every time you compromise for approval, you sacrifice a piece of yourself. Chapter 2. The danger of seeking approval. The moment you seek approval, you hand over your power. The Stoics deeply understood this. They practiced self-sufficiency, drawing validation from within, not from others. Marcus Aurelius once said, "It never ceases to amaze me. We all love ourselves more than other people, but care more about their opinions than our own." Why do we do this? Because we fear rejection. We believe that if we're not liked, we're not worthy. But here's the truth. No matter what you do, someone will disapprove. You could give everything, sacrifice your time, energy, and happiness for others, and still, someone will find fault with you. Take social media, for example. Many people post carefully curated versions of their lives, seeking likes and validation. But what happens when those likes don't come? Their self-esteem takes a hit. They start doubting themselves. This is what happens when you tie your self-worth to external approval. You become a prisoner to other people's opinions. So why bother? Seeking approval is a form of dependence. When your happiness depends on external validation, you'll never be in control of your own peace of mind. True contentment comes from within, from living with integrity, not from chasing the ever-changing opinions of others. The more you seek validation, the less respect you earn. People admire those who stand firm, who do what is right instead of what is popular. The irony is that the harder you try to be liked, the less respect you receive. Instead of chasing approval, chase self-respect. Make decisions based on wisdom, not fear. Act with integrity, even if it makes you unpopular. Epictetus put it simply, if you want to improve, be content to be thought foolish and stupid. True strength comes from being indifferent to the fleeting opinions of others. The next time you hesitate to speak your mind, remind yourself, I am not here to be liked. I am here to live by my principles. Chapter 3. Why you must set boundaries. A man with no boundaries is a man who will be walked over. He says yes when he means no. He is taken for granted. And the Stoics would see this not as kindness, but as failure. A wise person values their time and energy. They do not give it away carelessly. A lack of boundaries doesn't just drain you, it lowers your value in the eyes of others. When you are too agreeable, people assume your time and efforts are infinite, that you are always available, that your priorities don't matter. You're not seen as kind, you're seen as someone to be used. Seneca warned, while we are postponing, life speeds by. Your time is your most valuable resource. Every moment spent pleasing others at the expense of yourself is a moment wasted. If you do not set boundaries, others will set them for you. Look at successful people. They protect their time fiercely. They don't say yes to every request. They understand that in order to achieve great things, they must prioritize themselves. If Jeff Bezos spent his time responding to every email personally, he wouldn't have built Amazon. If Oprah Winfrey had said yes to every opportunity, she wouldn't be the powerhouse she is today. At first, people may resist your boundaries. Those who benefited from your constant compliance might even be upset. But over time, the right people will respect you more. And most importantly, you will respect yourself more. Conclusion. Stop being nice. Start being strong. The world has convinced you that being nice is a virtue. But if your kindness comes from fear of rejection, conflict, or standing alone, it isn't kindness, it's submission. The Stoics knew better. They lived with virtue not for approval. They stood strong, not because it was easy, but because it was right. If you want to command respect, you must stop bending for others. If you want to be truly strong, you must stop seeking approval. And if you want to live by Stoic principles, you must replace shallow niceness with something far greater. Integrity, strength, and unwoven narration. Begins. Imagine this. You're at work, and a colleague asks you to stay late to finish their project. You don't want to, but you don't want to seem rude. So, you say yes. Later, you're exhausted, missing out on time with your family or your own personal goals, and yet, your coworker doesn't even say thank you. Sound familiar? This is what happens when we lack boundaries. We become exhausted, unappreciated, and worst of all, resentful. A man with strong boundaries commands more respect than one who bends at every request. Each time you reinforce your boundaries, you reinforce your self-worth. The more consistent you are, the more others understand how to treat you. Chapter 1. Why boundaries matter. People will test your boundaries. They might push you, hoping you'll cave. They might act surprised when you say no. But here's the truth. People respect consistency. They might not like it at first, but over time they will respect it. Think of someone you admire, maybe a boss, a mentor, or even a historical figure. Chances are, they didn't get there by pleasing everyone. They got there by standing firm in their values, knowing their worth and respecting their time. Practical tip. Next time someone asks something of you that you don't truly want to do, instead of immediately saying yes, say, "Let me think about it." This gives you time to assess whether it aligns with your values or if you're just trying to be nice out of habit. Chapter 2. How niceness breeds resentment. Have you ever helped someone only to feel irritated afterward? Have you ever gone out of your way for someone who never reciprocated? This is the curse of the nice person. Many of us are taught that being nice means saying yes to everything. But when your kindness comes with unspoken expectations, when you give and silently hope for something in return, you are not being kind. You are engaging in a hidden transaction. The problem? People can't read your mind. Many will assume you're happy to help, and if you don't express your expectations, you'll end up feeling used and bitter. Example: imagine you're always the one driving your friends around. You never say anything, but deep down, you wish they would offer to pitch in for gas. Eventually, you start resenting them. But they don't know, because you never told them. Solution: if you give, do it because you truly want to, not because you expect something in return. And if you do expect something, communicate it clearly. Hey, I don't mind driving, but can we split gas money? Simple, director, effective. Chapter 3. Boundaries are not walls. They are gates. Many people fear that setting boundaries will push others away, but in reality, the opposite is true. Boundaries do not create distance. They create healthier relationships. Think of your time and energy like water in a well. If you let everyone take freely without regulation, you'll run dry. But if you control access, ensuring it's used wisely, you remain full and available for what truly matters. Example: a friend constantly calls you late at night to vent about their problems. You listen, but it's draining. Instead of cutting them off completely, set a boundary. Hey, I care about you, but I can't take calls after 9 p.m. Let's catch up during the day instead. By doing this, you're not rejecting them. You're simply protecting your well-being. Chapter 4. The power of saying no. A man without boundaries is at the mercy of those around him. He is easily manipulated, overburdened, and emotionally exhausted. A man with boundaries, however, is in command of his own life. He knows his worth and prioritizes his needs. Practical tip: start small. Next time someone asks for your time or effort, instead of instinctively saying yes, pause. Then respond with, "I'll need to check my schedule and get back to you." This gives you the space to make a decision based on your needs, not pressure. Conclusion: shaping your life with intention. To put it simply, the choice is yours. Will you allow yourself to be ruled by the expectations of others? Or will you take control and shape your life with intention? Boundaries are not selfish. They are an act of self-respect. And when you respect yourself, others will too. So, the next time someone asks something of you, ask yourself, does this align with my values? Does this respect my time? And if not, remember, saying no doesn't make you a bad person. It makes you a person who values themselves. End screen. Text appears. Respect starts with you. Set your boundaries. Own your life. Imagine this. You're always the one who says yes, the one who stays late at work, picks up the slack in friendships, and never turns down a favor. Yet despite all your effort, you feel drained, unappreciated, and even resentful. Why? Because you lack boundaries. Boundaries are not barriers. They are the defining traits of those who command respect. Today, we're diving into why strong boundaries are essential and how they can transform your life. A man with strong boundaries commands more respect than one who bends at every request. Each time you reinforce your boundaries, you reinforce your self-worth. Consistency is key. People will test your limits, hoping you'll waver. But the more you hold your ground, the more they respect you. Take an example from the workplace. Imagine you have a colleague who always asks you to cover their shifts or take on extra work. If you always say yes, you set a precedent that your time is flexible and disposable. But what happens when you finally say no? They may push back at first, but over time they learn to respect your time and effort. This is true in relationships too. If a friend always expects you to be available but never reciprocates, it's up to you to communicate your limits. Set the expectation that your time is valuable, and you'll see who truly respects you. Many people fear that setting boundaries will push others away. They believe that saying no will make them seem selfish or unkind. But the opposite is true. Boundaries foster healthier relationships. When people know where you stand, they trust you more. Think of it like this. Imagine your time and energy as a well. If you let everyone take from it without regulation, it will soon run dry. But if you control access, ensuring it's used wisely, it remains full for what truly matters. Setting boundaries isn't about shutting people out. It's about protecting your resources for those who respect them. Have you ever helped someone only to feel irritated afterward? Maybe you lent a friend money, expecting gratitude or repayment, but they never acknowledged it. This is the curse of the overly nice person. They give expecting something in return but never express their expectations. The problem isn't just external. Being overly nice without setting expectations erodes self-respect. If your kindness is driven by a fear of conflict or rejection, it stops being genuine and becomes a form of self-preservation. A classic example is in relationships. Many people believe that if they go out of their way to be accommodating, their partner will automatically return the favor. But relationships don't work on unspoken agreements. If you have needs, voice them. If you feel unappreciated, address it. Expecting people to read your mind only leads to disappointment. So how do you break free from this cycle? The answer is simple yet profound. Communicate clearly and honestly. Practice saying no. The next time someone asks something of you, pause before answering. Instead of immediately saying yes, respond with, "Let me think about it." This gives you space to decide if it aligns with your priorities. Set expectations early. If you're willing to help, be clear about what you expect in return. Instead of assuming your effort will be recognized, state your needs outright. Embrace discomfort. People may not like your newfound boundaries at first, but over time, they will respect them. If someone reacts negatively, ask yourself, were they benefiting from my lack of boundaries? A man without boundaries is at the mercy of others, easily manipulated, overburdened, and emotionally exhausted. But a man with boundaries commands his own life. He prioritizes his needs and interacts with others on his terms. By shifting your mindset from blind niceness to mindful generosity, you create space for deeper, more fulfilling connections. True kindness is not about self-sacrifice. It's about balance. Know when to give and when to withhold, when to support and when to step back. The choice is yours. Will you continue being ruled by the expectations of others, or will you take control and shape your life with intention? Start today. Set one small boundary. Say no to something that doesn't align with your values. Watch how it changes the way people treat you, and more importantly, how it changes the way you see yourself. Respect is not demanded. It is cultivated, and it starts with you.